Long ago, on the distant world of Oranu, there lived a mighty dragon named Shulra. She was not like the dragons from human tales. Her scales were not simple scales but plates of living metal that shone like fire when the sun touched them. Her wings were vast, like sails of light, and her eyes glowed like twin moons. For centuries she guarded the skies and seas of Oranu, keeping peace among the many tribes who lived there. She was not only a beast of strength but a guide, a voice of wisdom that taught the younger ones how to live in balance with stars and earth. But time does not spare even the greatest. A century ago, a storm came from beyond the stars. It was not of wind or rain but of strange cosmic fire, tearing across Oranu's skies. The storm burned Shulra's wings and struck her body with wounds that even her strong spirit could not heal. She fell from the skies, crashing into the mountains of Oranu, her roar echoing for days. When the storm passed, the world was silent, and Shulra did not rise again. The tribes of Oranu gathered. Their leaders looked upon the once great dragon and shook their heads. They said her time was over. They said no creature could recover from such wounds. Shulra's wings were broken, her body weak, and her light dimmed. The council of elders declared that she should be left to rest. Some even feared she would bring misfortune if forced to live in pain. So they built walls around the mountain where she lay, not to protect her, but to keep her hidden, as if they wished to forget. Years passed. Shulra remained in her cavern, breathing slowly, her once bright scales growing dull. Many forgot her name. Children of Oranu heard only fragments of old songs about the guardian of skies, and most thought she was only a myth. Yet there was one who never forgot, one who did not accept the council's judgment. It was her hatchling, a small dragon named Nira. Nira had hatched in the shadows of her mother's weakness. She never saw Shulra soar. She never saw her mother's wings blaze with light. From the day she opened her eyes, she only saw the heavy stillness of the cavern, the weak rise and fall of her mother's chest, and the sadness in her eyes. Yet to Nira, Shulra was everything. She was not only her mother but her entire world. Where the elders saw a fallen giant, Nira saw hope. She refused to believe her mother could not be saved. Nira was small, her body slender, her scales bright blue like the river stones of Oranu. Unlike her mother, she had never flown far. Yet she was clever and bold. Each day she searched the old archives of the tribes, reading of healers, energy stones, and forgotten machines. She asked the elders for help, but they always told her no. They said she was foolish, that even the best healers had tried and failed. They said the ancient dragon should be allowed to fade in peace. But Nira's heart was strong, and she never gave up. One night, while sitting beside her mother, she whispered softly, "I will find a way, mother. You will fly again. I promise." Shulra only closed her eyes, too weak to answer, but a single tear shone on her cheek. That small sign was enough for Nira to continue. She began to search beyond her world. Using an old transmitter she found buried in the ruins, she tried to send signals into the stars. She did not know if anyone would hear, but she sent her voice again and again, calling for help. Her words were simple: "Please, my mother is dying. She is a dragon of Oranu. She needs one who can mend what others cannot. Please answer." Most of her signals vanished into silence. Days turned into weeks. Nira grew tired, but she refused to stop. She believed someone, somewhere, must be willing to listen. She did not care if they were alien or stranger. She only cared that they had the heart to try. The people of Oranu shook their heads when they heard what she was doing. They said she was wasting her time. They said no being from the stars would ever come for a dying dragon. They laughed at the thought. To them, Nira was just a hatchling chasing a dream. But Nira held on to her dream, because she knew her mother's life depended on it. Inside the cavern, Shulra's breaths grew slower. The light in her eyes flickered like a fading flame. Yet when Nira rested beside her, Shulra still opened her wing, weak but gentle, and sheltered her child. Even at her weakest, she showed love. That love gave Nira the strength to keep sending her call, hoping that one day, somewhere in the endless dark of space, a voice would answer. And so, the story began not with strength, not with victory, but with a daughter's hope and a mother's silent struggle. No one on Oranu believed Shulra could be saved. No one but the hatchling, who refused to stop believing. Far away from the world of Oranu, in a quiet corner of human space, there lived a man named Arun. He was not a soldier, not a leader, and not a famous explorer. He was only a mechanic. His life was filled with the sound of metal tools and the hum of machines. On a small colony station that circled a dim star, he worked repairing broken satellites, old cargo ships, and farming machines. The people of the station respected him, but only in small ways. They called him when their machines broke, and he always found a way to fix them. Yet no one thought he was special. He lived alone in a small workshop filled with rusted parts and half-finished projects. He never dreamed of glory, but he loved his work. To him, machines were like living beings. Each broken piece told a story, and each repair brought something back to life. One night, while he was working on an old transmitter, something strange happened. His console lit up with a signal he had never seen before. At first he thought it was just static from the stormy space weather near the colony. But then he heard a voice. It was soft, almost hidden in the noise, but it carried a weight of sorrow and hope. The voice said, "Please, my mother is dying. She is a dragon of Oranu. She needs one who can mend what others cannot. Please answer." Arun froze. He looked around his workshop, half expecting someone to laugh at him. A dragon? On Oranu? It sounded like a tale from old children's books. Yet the voice was real, trembling but strong. It repeated the message again, clearer this time. It was not a recording. Someone was out there, sending this call again and again. He leaned closer to his console. "Who is this?" he asked, though he doubted his signal would reach so far. To his surprise, the voice answered. "I am Nira. My mother is Shulra. She is hurt. Please, can you help?" Arun rubbed his eyes. He had fixed many strange machines in his life, but never had anyone asked him to repair a dragon. He almost laughed at the thought, but the voice was so desperate that he could not turn away. He asked, "Why me? I am only a mechanic. I do not heal living beings." Nira's voice carried back, filled with determination. "You mend what others cannot. My people do not believe she can be saved. But I believe someone out there can help her. You can try. Please." Arun sat in silence. Around him, the tools in his workshop seemed suddenly heavier. What could he do? He was just one man with old tools and spare parts. Yet something in Nira's words stirred him. All his life, he had been fixing broken things that others had given up on. He remembered the old farming robot that everyone said was useless, until he rebuilt it with patience. He remembered the ship that had drifted without power, and how he brought it back to the stars. Perhaps this was not so different. He whispered to himself, "Machines and bodies, both have systems. Both can break. And both can be repaired if you understand them." The next day, he told a few people on the colony about the signal. They laughed at him. They said he had been working too long and hearing voices. Some told him the signal was just an echo from the past, not real. Others said even if it was real, no human should travel to Oranu, because it was too far and too dangerous. Arun listened, but his heart was already set. He could not ignore the voice that had reached across the stars. He packed his small ship with tools, spare alloys, and parts he thought might be useful. His ship was old and scratched, but it was reliable, like him. As he prepared to leave, he felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. He was not a hero. He was not even sure he could help. But he knew he had to try. When he launched into the dark, the colony station grew small behind him. Ahead lay the long journey through unknown space, guided only by the faint coordinates Nira had sent. He traveled through asteroid fields and across silent regions where stars were far apart. At times, his ship rattled as if it would fall apart, but Arun pushed it forward. Days turned into weeks. He repaired his ship mid-flight more than once, patching its old systems with whatever he had on hand. At night, when he rested, he replayed Nira's signal. Her voice gave him strength. He imagined a small creature waiting in the shadows of a mountain, her only hope tied to a stranger from far away. Finally, after many trials, Arun's ship neared the world of Oranu. The planet glowed with green forests and silver rivers, but its skies carried scars of storms. Following Nira's directions, he descended toward a hidden valley, far from the tribes. As he landed on the rough ground, the air shook with a sound he had never heard before. It was not the sound of machines or storms, but the sound of a breath so vast it felt like the earth itself was alive. He stepped out of his ship, his tools heavy on his back. And there, in the distance, he saw her. A small dragon with bright blue scales stood waiting. Her eyes were full of hope and fear. Behind her, in the shadow of the mountain, something massive stirred, glowing faintly like dying embers. Arun's heart pounded. For the first time, he realized the signal was true. The dragon was real. And she was waiting for him. The air of Oranu was thick with silence as Arun stepped out of his small ship. The ground beneath him was rough, covered with dark stone and glowing moss. The wind carried a faint hum, as if the mountain itself breathed. He had traveled across space to follow a voice, and now that he stood here, he wondered if he had made a mistake. But then he saw her. The small dragon stood at the edge of the valley, her scales bright blue like river stones shining under the sun. She was not taller than his shoulder, yet her eyes glowed with a light that held both innocence and strength. She tilted her head as if to study him, her wings folded close to her body. "You came," the dragon said softly. Her voice matched the one he had heard across the stars. It was Nira. Arun nodded, his throat dry. "Yes. You called, and I answered." He looked around the valley, uneasy. "Is this safe? Should I be here?" Nira's eyes narrowed, but not in anger. She was cautious, like a child guarding a secret. "Safe for now. Others do not come here. They do not believe she can be saved. But I believe. And you came. That means something." Arun stepped closer, careful not to make sudden moves. His boots crunched on the stone, and the sound echoed strangely in the valley. "You said your mother is hurt. Where is she?" Nira turned her head toward the shadow of the mountain. "Inside. She is too weak to walk in the open. She rests in the cavern. You must see her." Arun followed as Nira led him toward the mountain wall. A narrow path wound upward, lined with crystals that gave off a pale glow. The deeper they went, the heavier the air became. Arun felt as if each step carried him closer to something beyond human understanding. At last, the path opened into a vast cavern. Arun stopped in awe. The ceiling was so high it disappeared into darkness. At the center of the cavern lay a shape so large it seemed part of the mountain itself. The dragon Chulra rested there. Her body was immense, her wings folded like mountains of broken glass. Her scales, once glowing like molten fire, were now dull and cracked. Each breath she drew was slow and heavy, shaking the stones beneath her. Arun's heart pounded. He had seen great machines fall apart, but this was different. This was not just broken metal. This was life, fragile yet powerful, on the edge of fading. Nira ran to her mother's side and pressed her head against her. "Mother, he is here. The one I told you about." The one who answered. For a moment, Shulra did not move. Then her massive head lifted slightly. Her eyes opened, glowing faintly like distant moons. She studied the small human standing before her. Arun felt tiny, like a speck in the universe, yet he did not look away. Her voice was deep and slow, shaking the cavern. A human? My child has brought me, a human mechanic. Arun bowed his head, not out of fear but out of respect. I am only a mechanic. I fix what others leave behind. I do not know if I can help, but I will try. Shulra's gaze was sharp, yet weary. Others tried. Healers, elders, even machines of your kind. None could mend me. Why should you succeed where all failed? Before Arun could speak, Nira's voice cut through the air. Because he came. Because he listened when no one else did. That is enough for me. Shulra's eyes softened as she looked at her hatchling. For a moment, her great body relaxed. Then she lowered her head back onto the stone. Do what you will, mechanic. My life fades already. If nothing else, your effort will be a gift to my child. Arun walked closer, studying her with the eyes of a craftsman. He saw cracks in her wings, veins of energy that no longer flowed, and joints that seemed locked with age and damage. To him, she was like a great ship left to rust in the void. A ship too precious to abandon. He placed his hand gently on one of her scales. It was cold, yet he felt a faint vibration beneath it, like a weak engine struggling to run. His mind began to work, not with fear but with curiosity. He thought of alloys, supports, energy lines, and repair tools. Perhaps she was not so different from the machines he loved. Perhaps he could rebuild her strength piece by piece. Nira watched his face with wide eyes. You see a way, don't you? She whispered. Arun gave a small nod. I see a chance. It will not be easy. It may take time. But I will not stop if you do not stop. For the first time in many years, hope stirred in the cavern. The hatchling's eyes shone with joy, and even the ancient dragon's breath seemed a little stronger. A human and a dragon, strangers from different worlds, stood together in the shadows of a mountain. And though no one else believed, in that moment, they all shared the same thought. Perhaps the impossible could be made real. The cavern was quiet except for the slow breathing of Shulra. Her body filled the space like a fallen mountain, her wings folded tight against her sides. Arun stood at her side, tools hanging from his belt, his mind already searching for answers. He was a mechanic, and before him was the greatest challenge of his life. He knelt near her wounded wing, brushing away the dust that had gathered over years of stillness. The once bright membrane was torn and fragile, as if fire had passed through it long ago. The supporting bones, larger than any beam he had ever worked with, showed cracks where energy had burned through. To the elders of Oranu, this was the end. To Arun, it was a puzzle. This is damage, he murmured, speaking half to himself, half to the dragon. Not an ending. A broken system can be rebuilt. It will take time, but it can be done. Nero leaned close, her eyes wide with hope. What will you do? Arun touched the cracked surface carefully. I will start where the damage is worst. Her wings must carry her. If we can make them strong again, then the rest will follow. Shulra shifted slightly, her voice deep and tired. You speak with such certainty, human. Yet your tools are small, and I am vast. Can you truly believe you can mend me? Arun looked up at her massive form. I do not know if I will succeed. But I know that giving up without trying is the only way to truly fail. And I cannot do that. Not for her. He glanced at Nira, whose small form pressed against her mother's side. Shulra closed her eyes, as if remembering a distant time when she herself had been filled with such determination. Very well, mechanic. Do what you will. Arun began with simple steps. He unpacked sheets of flexible alloy from his bag. They were scraps from old ships, but strong enough to bend and shape. With care, he pressed them against the torn wing, using heat from his small torch to mold them into patches. The alloy shimmered as it fused, creating a bridge over the damaged membranes. The work was slow. Each patch required patience, and the dragon's vast body made every step difficult. Nira helped in any way she could, carrying tools in her jaws and holding lights in her claws so Arun could see. Her small movements filled the cavern with quiet energy, as if her hope flowed into the work itself. Hours passed, and Arun's hands grew sore, but he did not stop. Each time he looked at the dragon's broken form, he thought of machines he had repaired before. A ship abandoned in space, its engines cold. A robot left to rust in the dust of a farm. Everyone had said they were useless, but he had restored them. Now, he would do the same here. When he finished the first layer of patches, he moved to the bones beneath. Using rods of reinforced alloy, he built supports along the cracked structures. He fastened them with energy clamps, devices he had created from spare circuits. When he tested them, they held firm, glowing faintly as energy passed through. Shulra opened her eyes and watched him. Her voice was soft, almost thoughtful. You work as if I am a ship, not a creature of scale and breath. Arun wiped sweat from his brow. A ship, a dragon, a machine, a body. All are systems. All have parts that work together. When one part breaks, the whole suffers. But if you mend the broken part, the whole can live again. That is how I see you. Not as a dying creature, but as a system waiting to be whole. Nira's tail flicked with excitement. Do you hear, Mother? He sees a way. He sees life where others see only loss. Shulra said nothing, but her eyes softened. She had heard many promises from healers before. None had spoken like this human, with such simple belief. By the time Arun set down his tools, the cavern was dim with night. His arms trembled from the work, but the patches shone faintly on Shulra's wings, reflecting the light of the crystals. Nira pressed close to him, her eyes bright. You did it, she whispered. I can feel it. Her breath is stronger. Arun shook his head gently. This is only the beginning. Her body is vast, and her energy lines are blocked. I will need to build regulators to guide the flow, or else the strength will not last. Nira tilted her head. Regulators. Arun smiled faintly. Machines that help control power. I can make them from scraps, but it will take time. Shulra spoke again, her voice deep but less weary than before. Human mechanic, I do not yet believe I will fly again. But for the first time in many years, I feel a spark within me. It is small, but it is there. For that, I give you thanks. Arun looked at her, then at Nira. Do not thank me yet. Save it for the day you rise into the sky. That will be thanks enough. The cavern grew quiet once more, but the silence was no longer heavy. It was filled with something new. Not despair, not defeat, but the first fragile breath of hope. And in that hope, the bond between the hatchling, the ancient dragon, and the human mechanic grew stronger. Word of the human's arrival and his work on Chulra spread quickly across Oranu. The Council of Elders, once content to leave the dragon to her fading life, were shocked and angered. A human, a species outsiders rarely trusted, had crossed the stars and dared to touch what they had declared untouchable. Council leader Varun, an elder with silver eyes and scales like aged stone, called a meeting. Around the great crystal table sat the oldest and wisest of Oranu, their wings folded in tension. This is unacceptable, Varun said. No human should interfere with Shulra. She is beyond saving. If he continues, he may disrupt the balance of our world. We cannot allow it. Another elder, Korra, whose scales shimmered like rivers at dawn, nodded in agreement. We cannot trust outsiders with such power. They do not understand dragonkind. He may harm her more than help. Yet even among the council, a few voices were uncertain. Perhaps, whispered a younger elder, if he succeeds, we could learn from him. But we cannot risk the failure. Varun's voice grew colder. Then we will stop him. Send envoys. Bring the human to judgment. He may think himself clever, but he is only a stranger meddling in what is not his concern. Meanwhile, in the hidden valley, Arun worked tirelessly. The first layer of patches had held, and Chulra's breathing was stronger. Nira watched, her eyes bright with hope, but she noticed the tension in the air. The wind carried whispers, voices that made the cavern tremble. "Mother," she said, flicking her tail nervously. "I hear voices. The council is coming." Shulra lifted her head slowly. "They fear what they do not control. They fear change. That is the way of elders." Arun stood, brushing the dust from his hands. "I do not care if they fear me. I am here to help her. Nothing else matters." Nero led him to the mouth of the cavern. From a distance, they saw ships descending through the clouds, sleek and glinting in the light. The council envoys had arrived, their forms large and commanding. They landed near the valley, their wings and scales reflecting authority and power. Varun stepped forward. His eyes fixed on Arun. "Human," he said, his voice loud enough to echo across the valley, "you have no right to touch Shulra. Step aside. Leave this place, or we will remove you by force." Arun raised his hands, calm but firm. "I am not here to fight. I am here to help. Your dragon is alive, and she can be healed. I do not know if I will succeed, but I will not abandon her." Cora moved closer, her expression stern. "You speak boldly. Do you understand what you face? She is not a machine. She is an ancient being. One wrong move and she could die." Arun shook his head. "I understand. That is why I am careful. I do not promise perfection. I promise effort." Nira stepped in front of Arun, her small claws digging into the stone. "You have no right to stop him. He is saving my mother. He listens when no one else will." The council envoys faltered at the courage of the hatchling. No words could match the fire in her voice. Yet Varun's gaze remained hard. "Your words do not change the rules of our world, child. Leave, or we will act." Shulra slowly rose on her trembling legs. Her wings, patched and supported by Arun's first repairs, lifted slightly. The cavern shook as her massive form moved. "Enough," she said, her voice deep and filled with authority. "I will decide my fate. Not you, not your council." The envoys recoiled, unprepared for such defiance. A dragon they had long thought too weak to act now commanded presence that could not be denied. Arun stepped forward, placing a hand lightly on Chulra's foreleg. "We are not here to fight anyone," he said. "We are here to heal. That is all." Varun looked at the human, his expression a mix of anger and surprise. "You dare speak to me as if you are equal." Arun met his gaze steadily. "I am not your equal. I am only a mechanic. But I will do what I can. That is all I need to be." For a long moment, the valley was silent. Nira's eyes glowed with hope, Shulra's chest rose with slow, steady breaths, and Arun stood firm, calm despite the tension. The council realized that this human was not just clever with machines. He had courage, persistence, and a sense of care they had not expected. Varun finally stepped back, his voice lower. "We will watch you. But if you fail, human, it will be your responsibility. We do not forgive mistakes with dragons of Shulra's age." Arun nodded. "I understand. But I will not fail from fear." As the council's ships departed, leaving the valley in quiet once more, Nira pressed close to Arun. "You did it, she whispered. You stood against them. You will help her now, won't you? Arun smiled faintly. Yes. Now, we continue. Shulra needs us, not fear or anger. Let's focus on healing her. Shulra lowered her head toward Arun, her eyes glowing faintly. You have courage I did not expect from your kind. I will allow you to continue. But know this, human. The work ahead will test you, body and mind. Are you ready? Arun tightened his grip on his tools. I am ready. We begin. And in that moment, with council threats fading behind them and hope rising in the cavern, the true work of healing began. The cavern was alive with quiet energy as Arun moved among his tools. Months of work had passed since he first arrived. Shulra's wings, once cracked and useless, were now patched and reinforced with alloys that shimmered faintly in the glow of the cavern crystals. Energy regulators, built from scrap and ingenuity, hummed softly, guiding the flow of power through her vast body. Nira paced anxiously beside her mother, her tail flicking nervously. Is she ready? She asked. Her small claws tapped the stone floor as she watched Arun inspect every line, every joint. Arun nodded, though his face was tense. The wings are strong. The joints can bear her weight. Her energy lines are flowing again. But the first flight is the hardest. She will need courage as much as strength. Shulra lay still, her massive head resting on the ground. I have not flown in decades, she said slowly. My wings remember the wind, but my body remembers the fall. What if I cannot rise? Arun knelt beside her foreleg and placed a hand gently on the metal scales. Then we try. One moment at a time. I will be here to support you. Nero will be here. You are not alone. The dragon's eyes glowed faintly, reflecting both fear and hope. Nero pressed against her side. Mother, remember the sky. Remember the wind on your scales. You are strong, stronger than you think. I believe in you. Shulra lifted her head higher, testing her patched wings. They stretched slowly, the alloys bending but holding firm. Energy pulsed through her body, stronger than it had been in decades. Arun adjusted a regulator near her shoulder joint, watching the flow stabilize. He wiped sweat from his brow. It's ready, he said softly. You can fly. The cavern fell silent. Shulra rose on trembling legs, feeling the weight of her body against the ground. Her wings stretched further, the patched membranes holding firm. She inhaled deeply, feeling the wind from the cavern mouth brush against her face. The sensation of air beneath her wings, so long forgotten, brought a spark of memory. Arun stepped back. Remember, your strength comes from within, but trust the work we did. Your wings can carry you. You only need to take the first leap. Nira chirped softly and flapped her tiny wings. I will be here beside you. You are not alone. With a deep, steadying breath, Shulra began to move. Her claws dug into the stone floor, her wings stretching wider with each motion. A soft hum came from the energy regulators, matching the rhythm of her breath. The cavern shook slightly as the weight of her body shifted forward. Arun held his hands close to her scales, ready to adjust anything that faltered. Nira flew in small circles above them, her bright eyes fixed on her mother. You can do this, she called. I know you can. Shulra lifted higher, her wings catching the air. At first, she wavered, barely leaving the ground. The weight of years and injury pressed against her, testing her courage. But Arun had rebuilt her body carefully, each support strong, each regulator steady. Slowly, steadily, she rose further, her massive form filling the cavern with motion. A soft cheer came from Nira, and Arun allowed himself a small smile. Hold steady, he said. One moment at a time. You have the strength. Finally, Shulra's wings beat fully, strong and sure. She lifted above the cavern floor, hovering, then slowly moved toward the cavern mouth. Sunlight spilled in, glinting on her scales, making them shine like living metal. For the first time in decades, the dragon felt the sky beneath her wings and the wind against her body. She roared softly, a sound of joy and triumph, a sound that echoed across the valley. Arun stepped back, watching in awe. He had fixed many machines, but nothing had ever felt like this. The feeling of life returned, of something broken being made whole again. Nira flew close to her mother, her small wings fluttering with delight. "You did it, mother. You are flying." Shulra dipped and soared, testing every movement. She circled the valley, feeling the strength in her wings and the energy in her body. I can feel it. I can rise again," she said, her voice rich with joy. "The years of weakness are gone. I owe this to you, human." Arun shook his head, smiling. "No, this is your courage. You took the first step. I only helped guide you." The wind carried Shulra higher. Her shadow stretched across the valley, long and strong. Arun and Nira watched as she flew in circles above them, her roar echoing with the sound of victory. She was alive, whole again, and stronger than many had ever imagined possible. Nira landed beside Arun, her eyes shining. "You did it," she said. "You helped her fly." Arun looked up at Shulra, now soaring freely. "No. You did it, both of you. I only held the pieces together. The real power was yours, all along." Shulra returned to hover above them for a moment, her massive eyes filled with gratitude. "Human, hatchling, you have given me life again. I will never forget this. I rise because you believed when no one else would." The valley, once filled with silence and sorrow, now rang with the sound of joy. A dragon had flown again, not by force, but by care, skill, and trust. And in that moment, Arun, Nira, and Shulra shared something beyond words, a bond that crossed worlds, species, and the limits of time. The impossible had been made real. The sky above Oranu was calm, painted with the soft glow of the twin suns. Shulra soared high, her wings strong and wide, cutting through the air with the grace of her youth. Below, Arun and Nira watched from the valley, their hearts light with triumph. Months of careful work, endless repairs, and unwavering hope had led to this moment. Shulra circled above them, then descended slowly. Her massive shadow fell across the valley, warm and protective. She landed gently, folding her wings close. For the first time, she appeared not as a broken guardian but as a being restored, full of strength and life. Arun stepped forward, wiping sweat from his brow. His hands were worn from the work, but his spirit was light. "You are ready," he said softly, looking up at her. "The skies belong to you again." Shulra lowered her massive head, her eyes meeting his. There was a glow in them, something beyond power or strength. "You have done more than repair my body, human," she said. "You have restored hope, not only to me but to my hatchling and perhaps even to your kind. Your work is a gift beyond the reach of most." Nira ran forward, pressing her small body against Arun's legs. "You saved my mother. You believed when no one else would. We owe you everything." Arun knelt and patted the hatchling gently. "I only did what I could. The true courage was yours, Nira. And Shulra's. I only guided what was already there." At that moment, a group of ships appeared in the sky. The council had returned, their form serious and careful. But this time, they did not descend with anger or commands. They hovered, watching as Shulra's massive wings shimmered in the sunlight. Varun, the council leader, stepped forward, his silver eyes reflecting thought and surprise. "She flies," he said softly. "She truly flies." Cora moved closer, her scales catching the light. "And she is whole again. The human has done what we believed impossible." Arun stood calmly, meeting their gaze. "I did not act alone. The dragon's strength and the hatchling's courage made this possible. I only used what I had to help them. Shulra stepped between Arun and the council, her presence immense and undeniable. You judged me too quickly, elders of Oranu. You said I could not be saved. You said outsiders could not help. But look now. A human, a hatchling, and the will to act have restored what was lost. Let this be a lesson, life is never beyond hope. Varun bowed slightly, acknowledging the truth in her words. We were wrong. You have shown us wisdom beyond what we expected, Shulra. And you, human, you have our respect. Your courage and skill are worthy of recognition. Arun shook his head modestly. I do not seek recognition. I only sought to do what was right. Shulra lowered her head, so close that Arun could see the faint glow of energy flowing through her scales. Even so, you have changed more than one life. You have changed the way my people will see humanity. We have always been wary of your kind, but now we see that compassion, patience, and skill are gifts that transcend species. You are part of this world now, and your place among us is honored. Nira chirped happily, circling around Arun. You see, mother. He belongs to us now. Arun smiled, feeling warmth spread through him. He had traveled across stars, faced doubt and danger, and repaired what many thought could not be repaired. Yet the true reward was here, in the bond he had formed, and in the lives he had touched. Shulra spread her wings wide, letting the sun shine on her restored form. She looked toward the distant horizon, feeling the wind and the vastness of the skies once more. I will soar again, higher than before, she said. And wherever I go, the story of this day will be remembered. The human who believed, the hatchling who hoped, and the dragon who dared to rise again. The council watched, their doubts replaced by respect. They had learned that strength is not only in power but in persistence, courage, and care. And they realized that the human, though small in size, carried a gift that many had overlooked, the ability to act when others would not, to see hope where others saw only despair. As the sun set on the valley, painting the sky in gold and pink, Arun and Nira stood together, looking up at Shulra. She circled above them, her wings cutting through the light, a living symbol of renewal. The impossible had been made real. A dragon had been saved. A hatchling's hope had been honored. And humanity's place among the stars had grown brighter not through war or conquest, but through compassion, courage, and the simple act of believing. Nira chirped again, flying to perch on Arun's shoulder. You see, human. We are a team. Always. Arun laughed softly. Yes, Nira. Always. Shulra landed beside them, her massive form gentle despite her size. She lowered her head, letting Arun touch her scales again. We rise together, she said. Not because of one alone, but because we believed in each other. And in that moment, beneath the glowing skies of Oranu, human and dragon and hatchling shared a bond stronger than any challenge. The world had doubted them, the elders had warned them, and the stars themselves had watched quietly. Yet they had succeeded, proving that hope, courage, and care could overcome any obstacle. The story of Arun, Nira, and Shulra would spread far across worlds, a reminder that even the smallest effort, combined with belief, could restore life, inspire hope, and change the course of history forever.